Welcome back to the Exploration Lab. Today, we're putting the rhetoric of Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar under the rhetorical analysis microscope. Unlike the other Renaissance texts we've examined, this one is a drama, so we'll be examining how William Shakespeare...
Did somebody say Shakespeare? Ah, the Bard of Avon, the greatest playwright of my time, a true master of words.
Yep, that's the Shakespeare we're talking about. Sounds like you're a pretty big fan.
Oh, the biggest, most certainly. I've been to all his shows. A play's the thing, after all.
Are you just dropping Shakespeare quotes into what you're saying right now? I get it. You really like the guy, okay? Now, let's focus. What can you tell us about the rhetorical situation of Julius Caesar?
Ah, yes, the tragedy of Julius Caesar. Also a bit of a history, since Caesar lived and died many centuries past. But Shakespeare wasn't just giving us a Roman history lesson, he was crafting a drama about power, persuasion, and betrayal.
And speaking of betrayal, this play is packed with political scheming and manipulative rhetoric. But before we get into all that, we need to understand the players.
Right. Our story takes place in ancient Rome, where Julius Caesar has become the most powerful man in the Republic. He's a military hero, a brilliant strategist, and, depending on who you ask, a bit too ambitious for his own good.
And that's where our next important character comes in, Brutus. He's one of Caesar's closest friends, but also a deeply loyal Roman who believes in the Republic, a government where power is shared, not held by a single ruler.
Enter Cassius, another Roman senator and general who's decided that Caesar needs to go down, once and for all. So he starts working behind the scenes, plotting a conspiracy to assassinate Caesar. Cassius doesn't just want Brutus on his side, he needs him. Brutus is noble, respected, and admired by the Roman people. If Brutus supports the assassination, it will make the conspiracy seem justified, rather than a power grab.
But how do you convince a man to betray his best friend?
With rhetoric, of course.
So today, our mission is to analyze how Shakespeare's rhetorical choices and Cassius's speech shape his audience's reactions.
We'll examine what persuasive techniques Cassius uses, how he makes Brutus doubt Caesar, and most importantly, we'll ask,
does Cassius build a convincing argument, or is he just a master manipulator? Under the microscope today, one of the most manipulative and high-stakes speeches in Julius Caesar, where Cassius attempts to pull Brutus into a conspiracy against Caesar. Let's take a look at what Cassius says to Brutus.
My lady, mayhaps I could perform Cassius's speech for our audience? Please.
Okay, Renaissance man, take it away.
Why, man, Caesar doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus, and we petty men walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves.
So what rhetorical choice does Cassius make here? He doesn't just describe Caesar's power. He uses a metaphor to paint Caesar as a towering giant, while others are reduced to tiny, powerless figures. Caesar is Colossus, striding over the world, while Brutus must peep about beneath his legs, small, overlooked, and beneath his rule. Cassius doesn't say outright, "Brutus, you are weak." But this metaphor makes Brutus feel weak. Remember, Cassius is trying to convince Brutus to betray Caesar. How do you think making Brutus feel weak could help his argument? Pause the video to jot down some thoughts. Cassius is appealing to Brutus's emotions, his pathos, by stirring up resentment. If Brutus sees himself as small and dishonored, he's going to want to change that. And that's exactly what Cassius wants. Next, Cassius makes a bold claim about fate and power.
Men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings.
Romans believed fate controlled everything, that their destinies were written in the stars. But Cassius chooses to reject that idea. He tells Brutus, if you feel powerless, it's not because of fate, it's because of you. So how does this choice affect Brutus? This is an appeal to logos, and Cassius's logic is designed to lead Brutus to conclude that he is responsible for Caesar's rise to power. However, Cassius is manipulating Brutus to think that if only he weren't so weak, there wouldn't even be a need for this wild conspiracy to kill Caesar. Why might Cassius have wanted to create this effect? By shifting blame onto Brutus and making him think he is responsible for Caesar's unchecked power, Cassius is getting closer to convincing Brutus to act. If everything is not actually controlled by fate, that means Brutus, as a loyal defender of the Republic, could and should take action to protect Rome. With this logic, he has no excuse to just sit back and remain passive. And this is exactly what Cassius wants. Not just agreement, but action. So far, Cassius has made Brutus feel weak compared to powerful Caesar. He has even made him feel responsible for Caesar's uncontrolled power. If his rhetoric is working, Brutus should be feeling ready to make some changes right about now. But Cassius is not done. He's about to take his approach to another level by directly comparing Brutus to Caesar. I wonder what the effect of this will be. Let's keep reading.
Brutus and Caesar. What should be in that Caesar? Why should that name be sounded more than yours? Write them together. Yours is as fair a name. Sound them, it doth become the mouth as well. Weigh them, it is as heavy.
Cassius has spent this whole conversation breaking Brutus down, making him feel weak, small, and responsible for Caesar's rise to power. But now, he chooses to shift tactics. Instead of making Brutus feel powerless, he builds him back up. Cassius creates a direct comparison between Brutus and Caesar, suggesting that if their names are equal, their worth and power must be equal too. At first, it sounds logical. But does this actually prove that Brutus and Caesar are equal? This comparison is a false equivalence. Cassius flatters Brutus, making him feel just as important as Caesar. But a name alone doesn't determine leadership. And that's what makes this so manipulative. Cassius uses flawed logic to make Brutus feel powerful, which creates an emotional effect. By lifting Brutus up, he reinforces the idea from before. Brutus isn't weak, Brutus has power, and it's time for him to use it. Now that we've broken down how Cassius manipulates Brutus, let's step back and ask a bigger question. What was Shakespeare trying to do with this scene? What choice did Shakespeare make? He created Cassius, a politician who uses his language to manipulate a well-respected man, Brutus. How does this affect the audience? Both Renaissance and modern viewers witness this manipulation and see how powerful rhetoric can be in shaping history. Why would Shakespeare want to create this effect? What warning might he be sending to his audience? Take a moment to jot down some ideas. By making Cassius so persuasive, Shakespeare warns of the dangers of political manipulation and urges his audience to be critical of those who use language to control others. So, through the choices he has made within the play he wrote, Shakespeare is really using his language to make an argument to real-world audiences. Rhetoric is everywhere. As you keep reading, watch for the effects of the character's language. Notice the rhetorical choices creating those effects, and evaluate how persuasive the arguments really are. Remember, behind every text is an author with a purpose that you can uncover through the lens of rhetorical analysis.